The church was extremely important in medieval community life in Wiltshire as elsewhere in the country. The nation was divided into parishes, with a diocese, for example Salisbury, overseen by a bishop, within one of the two archdioceses overseen by an archbishop of Canterbury and York. Some of these parishes derived from late Anglo-Saxon units, while others were still emerging in the 12th century. Medieval inhabitants of parishes such as Westbury and later chapelries such as Dilton paid a tithe of their produce and income to their local church.
The Christian church was an extremely important feature of life in the Middle Ages. Through its confessional, its sacraments, its teaching, it controlled the access to eternal life. Through its services, its processions, and its ceremony, it was a focus for community life, and it provided much of the colour and texture and drama in people's lives throughout the year. Not only that, it connected the local community with the wider life of the diocese, Salisbury in this case, and the wider international community of the Catholic Church, which in Western Europe we commonly refer to as Christendom.
The year 1240 is the first reference to the chapel at Dilton. This was a chapel of St. Nicholas under the control of the Lord of the Manor. We also have a record dating from 1362 of Walter Danzy of the family owning the manor being baptised at the church some 22 years before this. The same record refers, in passing, to a cemetery. From the relatively late reference to the chapel at Dilton, it is likely that it was one of the later parochial developments, as parishes and dependent chapelries emerged from larger ecclesiastical units and then gained their own church, or in this case a chapel, a smaller church dependent on another, in this case a mother church at Westbury.
A chapelry was an area served by a chapel, and a chapel was a smaller church that was subservient to a larger church, in this case the church at Westbury. The chapelry at Old Dilton served the settlements of Chapmanslade, Short Street, Stormore, the Marsh, later called Dilton Marsh, Penley and Brembridge. And over time, these chapels and chapelries often became rather more independent, and then they controlled more of what went on in the local area. But for a long time, people living in a chapelry would have to go back to the mother church for some of the key events, burial, baptism, that kind of thing.
The historic dependence on Westbury is evidenced in the fact that burials occurred at Westbury until 1631, after the earlier chapel of St. Nicholas, which had a burial ground, was replaced by St. Mary's Church in the 15th century, but without a burial ground. It seems then that burial reverted to Westbury until 1631, when a new burial ground was consecrated at Dilton beside St. Mary's Church.
The people buried at the earlier chapel of St. Nicholas would have been those living locally to it, servants of the manor, local villagers in the scattered settlements around the area, because it was their local community focus.